Hello, everyone, and welcome back to Mynock Mysteries. So, I guess we were all in the Outer Rim for a little too long, but now we're back and ready to start our Age of Rebellion arc. So, for those of you who have joined us before, welcome back. And for those of you who are new to the stream, welcome. You are joining at the perfect time, in fact, because we're just about to start a new story arc with new characters, and we also have a new player. So, I want to welcome Bewilderbeast to our cast. You want to say hi to everyone?
Hey guys.
Hey.
Hi.
So we're super stoked to have you on board. And before we kind of move into introducing you and introducing your character, I just want to take a moment to thank Palomi for joining us in our Edge of the Empire arc. She did an awesome job bringing her character Zania to life, and we're going to miss her and wish her all the best. But we are definitely excited to move on to this new story with our new cast and new friends. So, yay! So with that, let me introduce the rest of our cast. We have GM Emperor Josh. Want to wave hi?
Hello.
And of course, we have Gameface Killa and Stark joining us again for our second arc. And as always, I am Sylvanora. So before we jump into a description of our characters, I just want to go over a few logistics of the stream. So we are in the second part of a three-part mini-series of showcasing the Fantasy Flight Games Star Wars role-playing systems. We've completed the Edge of the Empire arc, which if you missed out on it, definitely check it out on youtube.com/Misscliks. And there you can also find when we did our character creation and a rules recap episode. So if you're new to the system, you can definitely take a look at that. It has an in-depth look at all of the rules for the system, as well as kind of the organic way in which we created our characters and their background. So as I said, tonight we start our Age of Rebellion arc, which is all about the rebellion portion of the Star Wars universe. The last arc we did covered the scum and villainy setting, where you play bounty hunters and scoundrels. And after we finish this arc, which should be about 6 episodes or so, we'll move on to the Force and Destiny arc, where we get to play Jedi and Force users and all that kind of fun stuff. So if you have any other questions about the stream or the system, please feel free to share them in chat. But with that, I think we can get into our character introductions. So why don't I go first? As I said, I'm Sylvanora. In real life, I'm an all around nerd who works in the STEM field, and I'll be playing Chloe Carr, which Stark mentioned earlier sounds like Chloe Kardashian. I swear the name has nothing to do with Chloe Kardashian. I didn't even know she was a person. I'm really bad at pop culture.
She won't be
Yeah.
born for a long time anyway.
Yeah, exactly. So Chloe Carr came first. Chloe Kardashian is just a wannabe. But anyway, Chloe Carr is a Bothan sharpshooter and infiltrator. She is highly skilled in combat and has a little bit of a problem with authority. Reason being is so she comes from the Bothan community, who are a very proud species, and they tend to be a species that are really big on infiltration and spies and things like that. So she was actually sent to the Imperial Academy to train there, which actually means she's a pretty exceptional Bothan, because as we all know, the Empire is not big on alien species. But it was kind of a two-way street. Chloe was sent there to spy a little bit on them and understand their training regimen, and the Empire also wanted to learn a little bit about the best of the Bothan species and what they have to offer. So she's a little cocky, but for probably good reason, in that the Empire actually decided to allow her into the Imperial Training Academy. However, she was supposed to go back to Bothan and say, "This is what I found out, etc., etc." as a spy. But as she was doing so in the Imperial Academy, she found out all of the awful things they did. So she decided to join the rebellion instead. She couldn't stand for what the Imperials actually stood for. So that's a little bit about Chloe. Why don't we go to you, Stark? Want to go over your character?
I'm a fish.
Yes, you're a fish. Why don't you
I
tell people
am.
what the fish actually is?
All right. Um, I go by Jen Kaho. I am a Mon Calamari, who you may recognize as the It's a Trap guy. He's also a Mon Calamari.
Admiral Akbar.
I used to be the diplomat to Alderaan before it kaboomed.
Spoilers.
So yeah, I'm sorry if you haven't seen the movie. I spoiled a key part of A New Hope, but that happened. Was since picked up by the rebellion shortly after that because I guess the two found a mutual interest in not enjoying the kaboomy of Alderaan. Has since then taken up a more analytical role in the rebellion and has been moved up to a more higher ranking position and is generally assigned to, I guess, scope out squads of the rebellion and see how they're working and which ones are more suited to receiving more gear and the higher ranking jobs and whatnot. I guess I'm middle-aged-ish, fairly slim, cybernetic legs, cybernetic arm.
Yeah, you had a photo, didn't you? We'll share.
Oh yeah,
We'll share an image on Twitter later so you guys can see. That's a pretty awesome.
I'll stick it in
chat.
Twitch chat.
Yeah, it's a pretty awesome illustration of his character that his sister did, if I understand correctly.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty much it, I suppose.
Yeah, I guess I should also say, if you don't know what Bothans are, definitely Google them. They're very interesting. I love playing Bothans. They are half cat, half human, half horse, kind of. They're an interesting kind of furry human with a big snout and a tail and hooves. I love them. They're pretty awesome. Yeah, there you go. We got a link in Twitch chat if you want to check out what they are. The reason I love them is if you saw episode 6, it was like many Bothans died to bring us this information for the second Death Star, and to me that's a pretty iconic rebellion kind of species. So I love playing Bothans. I'm super excited.
Maybe actually use the second link because the first link is what is currently confirmed about Bothans in actual canon, which is nearly nothing. So maybe click that second one.
I guess I should also say to just a little bit of, so if you didn't catch our character creation episode, which you should definitely check it out on Misscliks YouTube, there's actually 4 parts to that episode. The meat of the character creation is in part 4 of that. But we're kind of a special strike squad within the rebellion. And if I remember correctly, Stark, you were kind of sent to keep an eye on us because the rest of us are kind of misfits and
Yeah,
a little bit.
you guys are a bunch of misfits, but you show promise.
Yes. Yeah, we're definitely talented. We just have a few little quirks. That keep us from being kind of the straight and narrow. So.
And to be clear, you are, even though you're sort of, I would say, irregular in your makeup and talents, perhaps, you are currently well-respected members of the rebellion. There's a mechanic in the game called contribution rank, which determines basically how much you've contributed to the Rebel Alliance over the course of your careers. And I think I decided that you guys were about contribution rank 5 by this point. So even though you guys haven't played these characters before, that's like the level of respect that you guys already have from Rebel High Command. Despite that, like you said, you guys have a little bit of, I guess maybe a reputation for being a little bit thinking outside the box, and sometimes that's good, and sometimes maybe not so good. So, like, you're known as effective agents, but maybe a little bit of like an oddball unit, and as a result, it would definitely make sense for Stark's character to be attached to your unit, maybe temporarily, maybe semi-permanently, depending on how that works out and if it helps you to get results. So yeah, just want to clarify that.
Awesome. Cool. So why don't we go to our newest player, Bewilderbeast, and before you get into your character, why don't you let our viewers know a little bit about yourself in RL and then get into your character.
Sure. I actually think it might be better. I can introduce myself. I think it might be better if Gameface Killa introduces his character first, because we are actually siblings. But a little bit about me. I'm a teacher. I am definitely a nerd my whole life. Love more. I'm mostly a kind of like a Marvel girl, but I love me some Star Wars, and so I'm really excited to be finally getting in some Star Wars RPG time. And I'm really looking forward to it.
Awesome.
Have you ever played any of the Marvel RPGs at all?
Not yet.
Maybe we could do a one-off at some point. There's a great Marvel RPG that I love. But anyways, I don't want to get sidetracked too much. I had to ask while we had that topic up.
Sure.
Too many RPGs and not enough time. But yeah, the Marvel one is definitely awesome. Awesome. Well, welcome. And yeah, if we want to do Game Face Killa's character first, if that makes more sense for the story. Actually, for those of you watching, we don't even know as a party, besides Game Face Killa, much about Bewilder Beast's character. So I'm pretty excited to hear what she cooked up.
I'm playing Hamlin Quinn, and the Quinns are from a long line of traditional Imperial Navy pilots and members of the Imperial Navy. But at some point, I quickly moved up the ranks after joining. But at some point, I started to notice that a lot of the people underneath me and the trainees were sort of getting just really badly abused and used as basically just fodder in some pretty brutal combats. And so I became disillusioned really quickly with a lot of the terrible things that were happening, and had a crisis of conscience and decided all of a sudden to shift allegiances to what seemed to be people who cared more about the individuals in their navy. So I decided to switch to the rebellion, and that was definitely a huge fracture with my family. I had to completely leave everything except for my sister, of course. But it was pretty brutal, and I'm still sort of shell-shocked and upset by particularly brutal combat that I was in, the last combat that was in my Imperial career that sort of ended everything. And so I'm still kind of getting over that, but yet still trying to participate in this important conflict that's going on.
Very cool.
Cool.
Is that all for your character then? Yeah.
Yeah, I guess I'm still kind of a flight commander. Definitely have some skill in that area, like leading forces and that, but I also have some skills myself. Hasn't been too long since I've been out of the seat.
Nice. All right, so that brings us to Prala. Is that how you say your character's name? Prala?
Yes,
Awesome.
Prala. So Prala Quinn, younger sister of Hamlin Quinn, didn't go quite the same route as the rest of the family, and was a soldier and a medic. And being close with her brother, was very affected by the things that they both saw in their different branches. And when he decided to defect, she thought that was a good idea and went with him, and also was able to use some of her training as a medic to kind of help him recover and things like that and improve. Following his accident, following his traumatic mission, but as you know, things aren't all quite back the way they're supposed to be yet, so there's still a lot of work, and she's very attached to her brother. So
awesome. I guess that means you guys have the stronger bond, and Stark and I are the outsiders again, but that's okay. We're used to it.
So Stark seems to thrive on that, I think.
Yeah, we're a fishman and a catwoman.
So far.
We always go for the interesting ones.
Does that mean you're going to constantly try and like fish him out of a tank with your paws?
Yeah,
like...
I'm coming for you, buddy. I'm gonna chase you around. It's gonna be great.
Fanfics are already being written.
I hope so. There was some pretty.
I don't.
You never know. You never know. Awesome. Okay. Well, do you want to introduce yourself a little bit in RL, GM Josh? I know you don't have a character introduced, but just in case people don't already know who you are.
Sure. My name's Josh. I am a writer for the Score Esports. I write about esports in Heroes of the Storm, and increasingly Hearthstone, and certainly in the future more Overwatch stuff. So I do all the Blizzard games except the one that Stark really likes. Sorry about that.
Happens. I don't really like it now anymore anyway, so.
Oh. Don't let the StarCraft community hear that. Gosh. So yeah, that's my job. I really love GMing games. This is one of 3 games that I'm currently GMing. Also GMing a Pathfinder game. We're running the Hell's Vengeance adventure path, which is an evil character's adventure path, which has been a lot of fun. And I'm also running a Warhammer 40k Dark Heresy 2nd edition game.
Nice.
Pretty grim dark. Somebody almost died last week of a lung wound. It was pretty brutal, but I like it a lot. I like the universe, so definitely just love role-playing games. And I didn't play them very much until I guess it was about 9 or 10 years ago. We started playing them. We have a group that's basically the Pathfinder one. We've basically been playing ever since. The lineup of our group changed a little bit, but there's been mostly the same people that entire time. So it's pretty good. And I think it's a hobby that's just growing a lot in popularity. So I'm just happy to be a part of it and to help people tell interesting stories about characters. Like, I don't get to do a lot of creative writing in my day job, but I really do like it. So it's fun to be able to do it.
Awesome. All right, I'm super stoked. We have a fishman, a catman, and then the brother and sister humans who will probably make fun of the fishman and the catman as we go forward.
Just think lack of flamethrowers this time.
Lack of flamethrowers, lack of rapiers this time. Although, spoiler alert, I do have a great sword, which may or may not be better than the rapier. We'll find out.
I'm going to steal that too.
You would, wouldn't you? You would definitely steal that. So before we get into what our story is actually going to be, we have, in true Star Wars fashion, an opening crawl to introduce you. So why don't we get that started? All right. So I think that is our segue into having GM Josh tell us a little bit more about where we are.
Okay. So the timeline, if it was not clear from the opening crawl, is that it is after Empire Strikes Back, so after Episode 5. The Rebel fleet has successfully fled from the Hoth system, where they were hiding in Echo Base before they were driven out by the Imperials. And essentially, at this point, the Rebel fleet is undertaking a variety of missions, most of which are designed to further the Civil War, but they don't currently have a permanent base of operations that they're working from. And they're basically taking any opportunity they can to bloody the nose of the Empire. Like, if an opportunity presents itself, they take it. But for the most part, they don't have far-reaching military campaigns in like major conflict areas. Like, the fleet is trying not to be detected by the Empire. So it's a time where people have seen the results of their work because of being able to destroy the first Death Star, obviously in the past, but people are in a sense starting to become disillusioned. This is a pretty dark time for the rebellion. They were almost destroyed at Hoth. They did manage to get away, but they were almost destroyed at Hoth, and the situation now is kind of like, where do we go from here? What are we supposed to be doing? We're not winning the war yet. We might not be losing it because we escaped Hoth, but there hasn't been a decisive blow since the destruction of the Death Star. And the Emperor and Darth Vader obviously are still in control of the Empire. So the rebellion is looking for a victory. They're looking for something that can further help them grow. Obviously, destroying the first Death Star was huge, but you can't rest on your laurels. The Imperial fleet still outnumbers the Rebel fleet substantially, not to mention ground forces. So The rebellion's trying to figure out where to go from here, and for the moment, that remains unclear. Like we already talked about, the PCs are members of a Spec Force squad, so Special Forces being one branch of the rebellion military, and all of you have been summoned as a group, as a squad, to Home One, which, if you aren't familiar with it, is a giant Mon Calamari cruiser that you see in Return of the Jedi.
Apparently,
And
they're a very creative species, calling their home base Home One. Good job. Good job, Moncals.
It works.
I didn't name it, but yeah, the ship is basically the flagship of the Alliance fleet, and you are all summoned there for a briefing for an urgent mission. And all of you get the sense that this mission, like you guys are summoned here on short notice, and everything is very rushed. Like, it's not like, hey, you guys show up on the cruiser and you have like 2 days to sort of get ready and like you'd be ready for the briefing in 2 days and check your equipment and all that stuff. Like, this is pretty urgent. You guys get summoned and you're expected, by the time you get on the ship, you're expected in the briefing room in 20 minutes. So you barely have time to like get to your quarters, make sure you have all your gear, change out of whatever you were wearing on the flight over, and get to the briefing room. The feeling on the concourse of the ship and just in the hallways and stuff is that something big's going to go down soon. People aren't really sure what. It seems like it's pretty top secret, but the fact is that the leaders of the Alliance some of the major leaders of the Alliance are all on the ship, and there's rumors that like Spec Force squads are being summoned to the ship. You obviously know that to be true. So there's a fair amount of discussion, but nobody really seems to know what's going on. Your accommodations on board the ship are not great. You're essentially given like the kind of accommodations that a crew member on board the ship would have, like not an officer. So you basically are given one room that has 4 bunks in it, like that you're just expected to share.
Wait, we all have to share?
Yeah.
Even with the guy who's like kind of spying on us?
Yes.
Oh man, I'm sharing a room with a fish man.
And like you guys are in like the quarter section of the ship, so there's no like washroom in the ship in that room. Like there's like a shared like washroom at the end of the quarters hall. So it's very, very rough. And you, like I said, you guys are expected upstairs as soon as possible, basically. But the briefing is set for 20 minutes from now.
I'll probably just stay on the ship.
Yeah. Who am I fighting for top bunk? I call top bunk.
Mm-hmm.
I'm assuming brother and sister are gonna share, so.
Ugh, do we have to?
Actually, no, because that leaves me with the Moncal, so I'm good.
Yeah, exactly.
We'll go girls and boys. Anyway, doesn't matter. We pick our bunks. And I think we pretty much go to the briefing room, right?
Yeah, if that's what you guys want to do.
Yeah, it sounds good.
As you guys are preparing to leave the room, you see somebody sweep by, and they're wearing what looks like a pilot's uniform, but their pants are not regulation, and it looks like they're wearing like maybe some kind of strange, like it's not clear, like maybe they're a smuggler or something. It's not clear. And as they sweep by, some people who are in the hallway moving past them sort of stop, and they say like, "Is that Remus Antilles?" And the other guy's like, "I don't think so. I mean, I think we'd hear if he was here." And he's like, "I'm pretty sure that's Remus." But this guy doesn't seem to hear them, and he just continues to the turbo lift and leaves.
Do we know who Remus Antilles is?
You could roll if you want. You could roll a check to do that.
What kind of role is it?
How do you want to figure it out? Is it something you already know, or do you want to ask around?
I could do a warfare check.
Yeah, I'll allow that.
Cool.
Okay.
Give me 1 sec. Let me set the difficulty here. Okay, go.
Okay.
Roll.
Okay.
It's pretty good.
So Remus Antilles is the captain of a modified Corellian corvette, which is known as the Shattered Heart, and we're pretty sure that he's helped the rebellion a lot in the past. You actually think like in game terms, he has a higher contribution rank than your group does. Like he's done more for the alliance.
Mm.
One of his major victories that he's known for was a strike early in the Galactic Civil War, even before the first Death Star, where he attacked shipyards in the Kuat system, which is like a major shipyard. This was before even the Alliance had X-Wings. So this is like the campaign before that time. They were using like Y-Wings and Z-95 headhunters and stuff like that, like older starfighters, before they managed to steal the blueprints for the X-Wing and then manufacture it. So this person has been a staunch member of the rebellion for a long time. They've had other victories, obviously, but they're known as sort of being a dashing figure. And if he's here now, it seems like it's probably related to what you guys are doing also. And it just sort of confirms your thoughts that this is big. Whatever's going down is huge. If this guy's just showing up on short notice also. And it certainly seems like he was, because he left some quarters and started heading up towards the briefing room also.
So
So
there's a lot of people here, right? Is that what you said?
Yeah.
Like it's not just like our special task force and like that's it. There's like a whole bunch of people being
Mhm.
called in for whatever's going down.
yeah, it certainly seems that way. Like the vessel itself has far more people on it than it needs to operate. And there's lots of ships docking with it, and like it's just an absolute hive of activity right now. Like this ship, like would normally need thousands of people to crew it, but it has even more than that because people are showing up seemingly for the briefing.
Cool.
Well, yeah, I'll definitely let them know. Yeah, this must be something big, and kind of clue them in on what I remember.
Okay.
I'm gonna kind of elbow Jen and be like, "You ready for it?"
Are you?
I'm always ready. You're the one who sticks their nose in their books more often than anything like this.
Oh, that hurts. But then again, do Moncals really have noses?
True. They're more
I
like
just have barbels.
barbles.
They do. They do have barbels. That's true.
Yeah.
I don't even know what barbles are.
There's a little.
They usually
Failing
train.
my fish anatomy, guys. I'm failing fish anatomy.
It won't be the last time fish anatomy is brought up. I think there's gonna be a few
Oh,
guild
man.
jokes, like, yeah. All right.
You just nod your head. No discipline
Yep.
for me. Cool.
Just take out a data pad, start noting it down.
I see you kind of as our babysitter, so I'm gonna poke some fun at you.
So as you guys head towards the briefing room, lots of people are also joining you. The majority of them seem to be pilots, so like starfighter pilots for the most part. But you also know that there are some other Spec Force troops here. They're not units you've ever heard of, so it seems like they were brought in like basically maybe a call went out and it was like, who is the closest and can get here right now to do this? Because they're not like, there's no rhyme or reason as to which units have been brought in. So these people are all filing into the turbo lifts, out of the turbo lifts, and into the briefing room. And you guys step into the briefing room. And you guys know what the briefing room looks like if you've seen Return of the Jedi, when they're talking about the second Death Star and the attack plan against the second Death Star and all that. So it's like a big white room, circular area in the middle with a holo projector, and then seating area for everybody in sort of like almost a 180 degree arc.
Mhm.
And so you guys go in, and right away, the rumors that this is a big situation are confirmed. It's almost packed, but there's actually an area near the front that seems to have been cleared specifically for your squad. In addition to that, there are dozens of starfighter pilots. There are like what appear to be other Spec Force squads that are sitting in your area near you. And at the front of the room are three of the major leaders of the Rebel Alliance. The first of which is the Chief of State, Mon Mothma, who's a woman who always has red hair and like a white sort of dress, and she is the political leader of the Alliance to Restore the Rebellion. In addition to that is another Mon Cal that you might be familiar with, Admiral Akbar, who is standing beside her at the front of the room. And
Guys, don't go in. It's a trap. Anyway, sorry.
that hasn't happened
You
yet.
had
Hasn't
to.
happened
You
yet.
had to say it.
I had to. I'm sorry.
And standing next to them both is a man who appears to be in his early 40s, has sort of dusty red blonde hair and a beard, which you guys would know as Crix Maydeen. You know, he is a general, and he defected from the Imperials as a leader of one of their special ops units, so he's very familiar with special ops tactics. And so basically everybody's sitting. Most people are talking with people around them, seeing if anybody knows anything about what's happening. In your area, once you guys get to your seats, the Spec Force units around you all sort of look at you. Try not to be too obvious about it, and they don't. No, but none of them address you directly.
What kind of way are they looking at us?
They kind of just look at you, take note of you, and go back to their discussions.
Oh, okay. So it's not like they're looking at us walking to our death or anything. They're just normal looking at us.
It's not a dead man walking look, no.
Okay, cool.
So that's the situation, and then is there anything you guys want to do right now before the briefing starts? It looks like it's about to start in a couple minutes.
If it's like standard to go and get data on the briefing before it happens, I'd go and do that.
Sometimes that would be the case, but it doesn't look like any data is currently on offer.
Okay.
Like there's no data pads or anything where you could go just pick up a pad and like get the mission details.
All right, I'll just sit down then.
The three head honchos are like sitting at the front, like on a stage or something?
They're
or-
standing on the other side of the holo projector in the room. It's pretty
Okay.
much like the setup that's in the movie. Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. No, I'll go sit down too.
Okay.
The dog
Yeah,
is in
same.
agreement.
The dog agrees.
The dog also goes sits down.
Okay.
Yes.
So you guys sit down, and perhaps reinforcing your reputation as oddballs and outsiders, none of you strike up any conversations with anyone around you. Moments later, there's a soft chiming noise, which you guys all know is sort of the prompt for everyone to be quiet so the briefing can start. As the briefing begins, the lights come down and the holo projector in the circular area kind of comes up, and Mon Mothma begins speaking immediately, and she says, "We've received critical intelligence that points to a new large-scale reactor core test taking place at a secure research facility in the Kuat system. The Kuat system is the site of one of the galaxy's biggest shipyards and produces a large portion of the Empire's capital ships." And as she says that, there's a diagram of the planet. The planet looks kind of like what we, out of character, would know as the planet Saturn. Like it has a ring around it. The ring is actually like made by people. It's a giant dockyard that surrounds the entire planet.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, and it's this artificial dockyard that's just floating in orbit eternally around this planet. She continues as the image pops up, and she says, "As a result, the entire system is heavily defended. Nonetheless, the information about the test comes from a source that has been proven to be valuable and accurate. This same source was instrumental in the liberations of thousands of Bothan slaves from an Imperial convoy. We feel assured that this matter is of the utmost importance. Unfortunately, the matter is also urgent. The information indicates that the reactor test is scheduled to end in several days. If we do not act before that time, we may never obtain a readout of the device or see its capabilities in person. With that time constraint comes some unfavorable operational realities. General Maydeen, if you would." And she motions to Crix Maydeen, who steps forward and starts, in his business-like manner, starts immediately addressing the situation. "In normal circumstances, we would never attempt an operation like this on such short notice. While we have a stolen Imperial shuttle that can convey a strike team to the research station, we don't have cover identities or access codes, and we don't have the time to provide them to you. That means the team on the ground in the station will be fighting their way to the objective. Deception may buy some initial time, or even limited access, but this is a high security facility in one of the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy. This is a combat mission, and that's why Spec Force is taking lead as a result. Our current resources do not allow you a traditional exit strategy. That is where the fleet comes in. And he gestures to Admiral Akbar. Akbar steps forward and presses some buttons on the holo projector, and basically the projection turns to what is essentially a tactical map for fleet deployments and whatnot. And he begins again, very businesslike, and says, "This will not be the first time that we have struck targets within the Kuat system, as many of you are aware. In the earliest days of the rebellion, a limited strike by Captain Ramus Antilles," and he actually gestures to the crowd, you guys see Ramus sitting in the crowd, "was able to damage capital ship production. Our goal in this engagement is simply to create a distraction that will buy enough time for Spec Force to do their job. The main battle group will come out of hyperspace as close as possible to the orbital facilities ring nearest the station and open fire on any ships that are under construction or dry docked. When a response inevitably arrives, our fighters will screen for the capital ships and try and do as much damage as possible. For the Spec Force team, a specially modified Munificent class frigate will jam outgoing communications from the research station to allow the Spec Force team to operate without external complications. It will also relay mission status to Fleet Command so that tactical decisions can be made accordingly. Once the team has the information they need, they can exfiltrate using the stolen shuttle or any other transportation that may be available. Several fleet elements will move to cover the team's retreat, including Captain Antilles' Shattered Heart. Ultimately, while we will take every opportunity to bloody the noses of the Imperial Navy, our objective here is to draw attention away from the station and to expend the least possible resources in so doing. General Maydeen." And then Crick steps back up to the area around the holo projector and basically displays what appears to be an overlapping series of circles and overlaid on the Kuat system's map. And he says, "Kuat features one of the most impressive scanning arrays in the galaxy to prevent exactly what we're attempting to do. That means that packing the shuttle full of Spec Force agents and equipment will probably make boarding the station that much harder. The floor is open to questions. Does anybody immediately speak up about what the plan is? Like any questions about the plan?"
Who is the ground team?
So you're just like, "Who's going?" Like that's
Yeah.
the first thing you say.
I step up. I'm like super excited. I'm like, who's going? I volunteer as tribute. No.
Maydeen looks at you as you're like, "Who?" So you're just like, "Who's going?" Like that's
Yeah.
the first thing you say.
I step up. I'm like super excited. I'm like, who's going? I volunteer as tribute. No.
Maydeen looks at you as you're like, "Who's going to be the ground team?" And he looks at Jen for a sec. He says, "The unit currently overseen by our esteemed colleague here is first in line for this operation. We believe that your unique blend of skills will lend itself well to this mission. However, like I said, we're considering doing a full assault with an assault transport. Like I said, subtlety would go out the window in that case. We're open to your input on the topic. For the moment, I believe we should do a full assault. Some of my colleagues," he turns back towards Akbar and Mon Mothma, and then turns back to the assembled pilots and Spec Force agents. "Some of my colleagues do not believe that's the best option." And
I would agree with those colleagues.
and Akbar actually steps up and says, "We are concerned about our ability to protect the assault transport from the defenses in the Kuat system during your operation. If they believe initially that you are not a threat, you may be able to access the station and be inside before we jam the communications." And Maydeen kind of just looks at him and doesn't say anything and looks back at you.
Just taking a step back, when he says the unit currently overseen by esteemed colleague Jen, I
Yeah.
completely roll my eyes and do an exasperated look and sign. I don't
I
full
tap
out.
something into my limb, my cybernetic limb, and
What's
keep
that, sorry?
going. I said I tap something into the notepad on my cybernetic limb and keep going.
Oh, I failed another test. Anyway.
So I don't know if Madine's not. It's not crucial to him that you know right away, but they want to launch this operation in 4 hours. So they need your response about whether you want to go in the stolen Imperial shuttle or whether you want to go in an assault transport in the next 2, so that the necessary preparations can be made.
I'd go in the smaller ship you have.
I'm obviously not one for subtlety normally, but in this case, I think it's the best option.
You're a Both, and you're like, I'm not one for subtlety.
Nah. I am an
She's a weird
infiltrator.
boffin, man.
However, I'm also a sharpshooter. I'm still trying to figure out how my character works in my own head. But she's both
Okay.
spy and brawny, cocky, skilled combat person. It's a weird character, people. Go on this journey with me.
Okay. So it sounds like you guys all want to go on the smaller ship.
What do the other two
Perhaps.
think?
I'm
Sure.
in favor of the smaller ship. Yeah.
So Madine, when you are talking about that, Madine says, in that case, we won't be able to send any more ground forces as backup, except in the worst case situation where things appear lost on your end. We might be able to sneak another Spec Force team in, but at that point, it would be dangerous for everyone involved. We also don't know how stable this reactor is, so we want to avoid firing at the facility in any way, even in self-defense. So
Do we have a layout of the facility?
we do not. We do not actually know, besides the reactor test, we actually don't know what else is being researched there. It's possible that there are other projects that are currently being developed there, but we don't have time to deal with any of that. Unless you see data that's easy to get, just get out of there immediately. We think we can buy you about 15 minutes before we have to pull out completely.
15 minutes. Do we even know what kind of opposition we're going to meet on the planet?
Well, the station's actually in orbit in Kuwait, so
Right.
you don't actually have to get into the atmosphere of the planet. We expect there will be Army troopers. What we're worried about most of all, and why we're bringing the modified frigate, is we're worried that they will realize that you are attacking the station and that the rest of the attack is a diversion, and they will begin landing troops to attempt to stop you. Additionally, like I said, we don't know what kind of projects are being worked on inside the facility. So there could be unforeseen dangers that we just aren't able to do anything about. The reactor test is the most important thing. We're afraid that this thing could power a new type of starship for the Imperial Navy, and we're just now at a point where we feel comfortable in small engagements against them. We don't need the balance of power tipping any further, so we need as much information about this reactor as possible.
Do we know how large the base is?
The base itself is actually quite large, but most of the largest areas are given over to labs and research experiments. So the actual interior corridors that you need to navigate will probably be fairly minimal. If it's a standard station of this type, of course with the modified areas for research, but if it's a standard station of this type, we think you should be able to get from one end to the other using turbo lifts or other transportation inside the facility in about 5 minutes. So that would be worst case scenario, like you're on the opposite side of the facility from where you need to be. In terms of layout, we don't know. We don't have a ton of people inside Imperial research facilities. We have a lead on a couple people who are serving inside our Imperial research facility. They're currently on the run from the Imperials, and they didn't want to take our money. They said something about having another job. But in any case, by the way, that was a veiled reference to your old characters.
Whatever.
I don't think anybody got it, but that's okay.
I caught that one.
Alright.
We got it. We got it.
Okay, so yeah, we don't know the exact layout, but we don't think that you'll encounter too much resistance once inside, assuming that it's just standard Imperial Navy trooper complement. But again, like our intelligence is not good. Normally, I would commit to having better intelligence before sending agents into the field. But like I said, once this test goes offline, I don't know if we'll ever see this thing in operation in a test environment again.
So for the ship, they said that we don't have like access codes, like security codes or anything, but is there a way to like make the ship not give off any sort of signal or anything to kind of almost make it look like its comms and signals are broken? Just
That's potentially an option.
just to kind of give us maybe another like 30 seconds for them to think about like what is this ship as opposed to immediately jumping to like this is a rebel ship.
Yeah, so
Probably.
the shuttle is a stolen Imperial shuttle. So its current transponder code should get you onto the deck of the research station. But once you get off, none of you have code cylinders, none of you have IDs.
I see.
Like,
Okay.
we don't have any of that. So as soon as you step off the shuttle and they're like, "Who are you?" That's going to be a problem.
That's when we improvise.
I
Yeah,
see.
yeah.
Okay. So we can land. We just okay.
Yeah, you can land as long as you don't do anything too crazy.
Okay.
But
Do we have uniforms that we can wear to at least make them second guess when we walk off the ship?
we could get you some uniforms. Like I said, they won't really stand up to like heavy scrutiny because they could easily scan you. They could ask for your code cylinder. Any of those things will blow your cover immediately. But if you want the edge of surprise, we can get that for you.
Although I guess Hamlin, you too, we were both like ex-Imperials, right? Were you as well, Hamlin?
Sorry, say that again.
You're an ex-Imperial as well, right?
Yeah.
Are you too Prowler, or were you just his sister?
Yes.
You okay?
Yes, I was as well.
Okay, so we might have all like taken a uniform when we left, right? Like I feel like that's probably something we'd want to keep with us as a disguise if needed.
Yeah, they can get you uniforms. That's not a big deal. Like I said, the actual affiliated codes, code cylinders, and all that.
Yeah.
Like none of that would.
Okay.
Can get you
It could be
uniforms.
useful on the inside, though.
Yeah, like at least it makes them double take, right? So it's not
Mhm.
like we're wearing orange jumpsuits and they're like, shoot them.
Yeah, it's something.
Yeah, it's something. Are you ready to fly casual in our ship, Hamlin?
Yes, definitely.
Okay, so unless you guys have any other questions, that's basically the end of the briefing. There's an extended briefing for the naval personnel who will be trying to create this huge distraction for you in one of the most heavily defended systems in the galaxy. So they're going to stick around to talk about that, but you don't necessarily have to stay for that if you don't
I have
want.
one more question.
Okay.
What if, so we're like dropping our ship there. Do we have an extraction plan if they like sabotage our ship as we're kind of going through? Because we don't really have time to make sure we've cleared out all the troops, right, in a systematic way.
Yeah. So Nadine basically, as you say that, he says, in the worst case scenario, we will divert one of our vessels in order to pick you up. We hope that will not be necessary because we will need every vessel that we have to try and hold back the Imperials. And as soon as we start sending a vessel towards the station, there is a strong possibility that the Imperials will open fire on it and simply sacrifice all of what they have on board rather than let it get into our hands. So we would prefer that not happen, but if that is the only option, we will do so. We will send a vessel.
So we should probably take the time to like lock it down when we get off, probably.
That makes
I mean,
sense.
it is an Imperial shuttle too, so you don't really know if the technicians are probably, if there are technicians, they're probably good at getting it open because
That's
it's like
true.
it's one
Probably
of
have the keys.
yeah.
We're the ones who broke in. They're the ones who actually have normal access.
Right.
Gotcha. Okay. How do we take the readout of the reactor? Like, do we have a special tool for that?
I can figure that out.
Yeah, you just have to transfer the readout to the data pad.
Oh, okay.
like Nadine told you guys, there's possible there are other projects underway in this research facility. But it's also possible there could be, because this is a secret facility, it's possible there are even high value personnel inside. But he told you to get in, get the stuff, and get out.
Okay.
That's the primary mission.
Right. Yeah.
Anything else is a bonus.
That's right. So, but he also said like they can only give you about 15 minutes. So if you guys tackle side objectives, there's a strong possibility that you delay the mission to a point where they either can't extract you or reinforcements arrive. So it's really up to you as to how far you want to push your luck, but he's suggesting you don't. It's really up to you guys.
Makes sense.
Okay.
Can I go and download like the data they used for this
Oh yeah,
briefing?
they actually have somebody as like the briefing is about to adjourn. They have somebody hand out a data pad that has information about Kuat and whatnot.
All right.
The actual like current complement of like ships that would be defending the system is not known. So there are like a lot of guesses. Like they think maybe it could be a couple old Star Destroyers with newer ones on standby, but nobody really knows exactly what the current defensive situation in the system looks like. The only real certainty is that they think that they could summon reinforcements fairly quickly, which is why they gave you the 15-minute time. Because after that, like Star Destroyers will start showing up from all over the place, like all the neighboring systems, and they're not confident in their ability to fight off like multiple heavy capital ships for an extended period of time. So that's essentially what that data points to. They also know there are static emplacements in the system. They know that because of Antilles' intelligence from having attacked the system once already, way back at the beginning of the rebellion. But also those things could have changed, so they're not necessarily like set in stone. Okay.
So Jen is kind of like the person who's in charge of our group, right? Like as far as
Officially.
He's officially in charge. Whether or not he's actually in charge is another matter entirely.
so is he? So I think as like he's gathering the data pads and things, I kind of approach him, not wanting to draw too much attention, but I tell him that I think there's a problem with the mission.
And what's that?
I feel like I'm in the wrong. I feel like I'm in the wrong. You know, they put me on the landing mission, the infiltration mission, and I feel like my talents would better be used in the space combat. I feel like
There'll
I
be a
should
use for you.
do what?
There'll be a use for you.
I don't know. I just feel like for me, it's I got to get back out there. I'd be more useful to all of you to this whole mission if I was out in charge of that than.
I think you're assuming that if everything goes according to plan, you are going to be more useful as leading the space combat, which is probably true. But what also is probably true is that this will not go according to plan. And we will get abandoned on this, and you will need to fly us off. And that's where you're going to be useful.
You're a getaway car.
Someone also does have to fly the shuttle, strictly speaking, right?
I
Yeah.
can't fly a ship.
All right, but I just feel like. All right.
I can't shoot a gun properly. I'm going.
All right. I guess I'll trust in your judgment for this, but I still have some reservations about going on this part of the mission, being a part of this mission.
You being able to shine in a situation where you're not feeling very comfortable is also going to prove your worth to the Alliance much more.
All right.
Are you going to stay for the naval briefing?
I can. I guess I can kind of sulk.
I just figured you kind of might want to, but like you
Yeah.
don't have to.
Yeah, I guess I will. I'll kind of want to see what's going on as far as that part of the mission. Have a little bit more knowledge of that, if that's all right.
Yep. Are the rest of you going to stay for that, or are you going to just like you're not required to be there because there's no expectant.
I'll stay.
Like you're not expected to do that.
If they're all staying, I'm staying because I want to prove I'm just as important. So I'm staying.
I will stay.
Okay.
I was considering leaving, but peer pressure, guys. Peer pressure. Guess I'll
Um,
say.
as you guys stay seated, the rest of the spec ops people that were like sitting around you and behind you all get up to leave, and you hear a few of them grumble about how they didn't get the assignment and who are these yahoos, like why did they get it, what's up with the fish guy who has all the cybernetic limbs. Like there's a fair amount of grumbling from people around you.
As I like listen to this, I'm gonna move to different seats and just kind of like elbow people, like by accident, as I walk around because I'm really angry
Are
about
those people who are grumpy leaving?
Yeah, no, they're actually leaving. Yeah,
Okay.
like they're the Spec Force people. Like they're not staying for the naval briefing, so they're getting up and they're.
I'll go and follow them out of the door briefly and stand outside and see if any of them want to speak.
Oh, okay. You follow them out of the door and outside the briefing room. Like inside the briefing room, the naval briefing is about to start.
Mhm.
Outside the briefing room, a bunch of
I
guys.
don't look for a conversation, but I'm there if they wish to.
Okay, well, there's a bunch of guys who actually were talking, and they see you exit the briefing room, and they try and casually like move away from you to carry on the conversation a little bit further down the concourse, away from you, almost like they don't want you to hear because they recognize you as being part of that unit. So they do that, and then they begin talking again, and it's kind of a bit too far for you to hear very well. If you want to make a perception check, you can do so.
I'll try it.
All right. Let me just make sure the difficulty's set.
If subtweeting were a thing in this universe, there'd be a lot of subtweeting going on right now.
I'm not very good at perception.
It's set for you.
Yeah. All right. That yeah.
So
Wow. Wow, that perception is pretty awesome there, Jen.
Yeah. Yeah. I perceive well. How dead am I?
you're not dead. I mean,
Okay,
like,
You're
that's
just
good.
listening. It's not like your ears
yeah.
explode.
You failed.
He's
You
a fish
didn't
out of
fail.
water. I mean, how that's things right now.
Like a fish out of water. Yep.
That's true.
Basically.
So you failed. You didn't fail with threat. So you just simply don't hear what they're saying. If you'd had threat, I would have made it like it would be obvious that you're trying to
The
listen
ship
to
explodes.
them, basically.
Yeah, okay.
Yeah. But you just fail. So
Okay, that's fine. I turn around and go back in.
okay. A couple of the guys shoot you a glance as you go to move back in. Kind
I
of
pretend to take a note on my arm and go back in.
The most passive aggressive note taking in galactic history.
Yeah.
I like it. So you re-enter the briefing room. The naval briefing has already started a bit as that happens. So inside the briefing room, basically what's happening is they're going over the fleet that will, like the capital ships that will be sent on the mission. There's a Nebulon B frigate, which is like the medical frigate from Return of the Jedi. A couple of the larger Mon Calamari cruisers, and then a lot of smaller frigates that are sort of just acting in anti-starfighter duties. They expect, like from the briefing, sounds like they expect a lot of starfighters, and that's going to be a problem for the larger capital ships. So they're talking about like point defense systems and like trying to keep the larger ships clear of fighters, and if any bombers show up, clear those out too. They don't have specific information on force strengths or anything, so a lot of this is speculative. They don't expect that the research station has its own fighters, so they think that probably what will happen is they'll come in system. There will be a couple ships under construction or something. They'll open fire. There might be a patrol ship. They'll try and eliminate that as quickly as possible. And then the modified frigate will jam all outgoing transmissions from the research station so that you guys have as much time as possible to work before they send reinforcements to the station to try and stop you. And partway through that, somebody actually raises their hand. One of the pilots actually raises their hand when this frigate is mentioned. They're like, "Isn't that like an old bucket of bolts?" And Akbar's like, "It is an older vessel that we acquired from some ex-separatists. However, I assure you that the systems on board are all very modernized and that the jamming system is state-of-the-art." And the pilot kind of shakes his head and like kind of mentioned something to the guy beside him about, like, "My dad fought against those in the Clone Wars. Like, that's so old. I can't even believe that we're fighting against these, like, that we're using a ship this old." And Akbar kind of gives him a stern look, and he shuts up a little bit. And the briefing otherwise is pretty straightforward. one thing, they make note of two really important things. The one is that there's been a rumor for a long time that the system is defended by a super Star Destroyer, but there's never been any evidence of that. If that were to happen, the distraction would quickly turn into a fight for survival. And so they talk about some of the contingencies involved in that. They talk about how the Shattered Heart will be the vessel that comes in to retrieve you, should that become necessary. And they also talk about how they're unsure really about like what the response time will be, especially since they've attacked it before and the response time was very slow. So like there's some discussion of that, but for the most part, it's pretty much a standard naval briefing in a situation where you don't understand the strength of the enemy that you're going up against, which is very apparent throughout the briefing. At the end of it, people just get up to go. Some people pick up data pads about possible, like, there's another set of data pads that go out that have possible, like, models of Star Destroyer that might be seen, like some of the rarer ones. And that's pretty much it. That's pretty much the naval briefing for you.
Okay.
There's an opportunity to ask questions as well if anybody wants.
We're flying in a shuttle, right?
That's right. Yeah, it's a Lambda class shuttle, like the Imperial shuttle that you see in Return of the Jedi.
Will there be any modifications or extra firepower on that ship?
No, if you're going in that ship, we want to make sure that it appears to be as stock a ship as possible, and not alert them to the fact that you may be rebels. So we've basically left it in stock configuration. And actually, as Akbar says that, one of the pilots that's sitting in the pilot section actually shouts over to you and says, "Good luck flying that bucket of bolts." Like, so there's a little bit of.
We'll be tossing the proton torpedoes out of the back airlock ourselves.
Yeah, exactly. There's no launchers. There's some forward. There's some forward lasers and there's a rear turret, I believe, on Lambda class shuttles, but like nothing too heavy. Like nothing that's really going to save the day. It might defend you for a little bit, but.
I want to yell back to him, flying a new ship just makes it too easy. We have to have a challenge somehow.
That's true.
Yeah, one of the guys like in that area laughs and says, "New ship. I've been flying this X-wing for almost 2 years now. Whatever, new ship." And he glances back at what appears to be the assembled members of Gray Squadron, who are all flying B-wings in this encounter, and so they have new ships. So there's a little bit of pilot rivalry for sure. There's like everybody's pretty good-natured about it. Like nobody's like, I hope you die in the fight or anything. It's just it's good-natured ribbing. Like people are like kind of just joking about their various stations in the battle.
Yeah.
So
all in good fun.
That's right. So that's pretty much the end of the naval briefing. I guess it's 9. Do we want to take a quick break?
Yeah, we will take a quick
Sure.
break and we'll be right back with hopefully a successful mission on the station. All right, we'll be right back, guys.